Welcome into Studio A in beautiful downtown Lake Worth, Texas at 1 Biloxi Square. It's the Grandpa and Pappy Show.
Indeed it
It
is,
is another damn day of being in quarantine. Pappy, how's it going?
It's going good, man. You know what? I never get tired of listening to old Bulldog Willis plunk on that guitar.
Yeah, he can do it,
Boy,
can he?
rip, can he?
Breaking news.
This just in.
Yes.
It's going well. I mean, you know, we're still in quarantine. What is it? Going on 50 days or so? Something
God,
like
it's
that.
too long if you ask me. I'm telling you. The breaking news just leads right into what we're talking about today. What do you think of the news coverage
Oh, man. I think
of
it
today?
sucks. I think it sucks myself.
You know, Pappy, we got quite a bit of comments, and we got
yeah.
some late ones in that I'll be reading off of my phone here.
Yeah.
But thank you, folks,
Yeah,
for all of
appreciate you
the
guys.
comments
Couldn't
that
do it
you
without you.
that you made. But
fact.
you stop and think about the news media today. I mean, golly, people. The latest controversy is surrounding President Trump and him suggesting that we ingest disinfectant to kill the coronavirus. What that was, folks. Let's come on. Let's get real here.
Oh, boy.
If you go back and watch that update, a reporter asked him a sarcastic question, and he answered it sarcastically.
Who
And
would
I
have
don't
thought
blame
that?
him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way he deals with sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they sling it right back at you. Times
he's
two,
not
you know?
telling you to ingest
Or-
disinfectant
or
into your
inject,
body.
yeah.
God almighty. But the news media's gotten crazy. I tell you, Pappy, before we get into our viewer comments, you came up with some really interesting statistics that I
did.
think our viewers would like to take a look at and listen.
It's regarding current problems in media, and this is per Gallup poll. I don't know how much snuff you people put in Gallup poll, but as you know, it's a division formed by George Gallup that tracks the public's attitude concerning political, social, and economical issues. It was founded in 1935. They've been around forever. They do a lot of the social or public type polling out on the streets and ever how they do it. They put it together, but
Sure.
but according to them, there's high levels of inaccuracies. According to researchers, and you're going to have to help me with this word.
Academically?
Academicians, journalists, and the Gallup polls research.
Shit, we're just country boys, people.
That's
Come
right.
on.
That's not a southern word. 36% of America believes that that news gets their facts screwed up. I mean,
I couldn't agree with that more.
this was. I mean, it shocked me, the numbers. That's why I'm laughing. I mean, because I just can't wrap my head around these numbers. Compared to, this was like in 1960, 36% was even saying that from media, from newspaper, all forms of media.
Yeah.
As opposed to 1989, 54%. Year of 2019 findings show that that's up to 73% of America that's skeptical of facts or accuracy of the media.
Far out.
That is a huge number. Huge number. 49% of public claims to have knowledge of newsworthy stories, even though they weren't even a part of the story. Now, how in the hell do they do that? You got to have something to bitch about. I mean, how do you know about it until it's out there?
Well,
51% found errors to misinterpretations made from the reporting source to rush deadlines and just to plain bad editing. You know.
yeah.
So, Nonpartisan Public Agenda polled 125 senior journalists nationwide back in 1999 and asked if they had ever suspected colleagues of manufacturing facts into their reporting on news or events/incidents, and they all answered yes. That was in 99.
That's telling. That's telling.
You know, of course, they were probably out of the business. The tendency
By
to
now,
play,
yeah.
the tendency to play up and dwell on stories such as kidnappings, murders, disasters, sex scandals, and politicians are very prominent in reporting and journalism, they claimed. So,
You know, Pappy, I first got into radio in early 1971,
yeah,
and I did, other than being a disc jockey and sports play-by-play, I did some news, and this was back when the Federal Communications Commission was regulated. And boy, if you reported anything that was not true, they could fine you out the wazoo
The
or
FCC.
even pull the license of the station you're on.
the FCC paid close attention to that stuff.
Yes, they did. And then they deregulated radio, and I think that's one of the, or deregulated the broadcast industry, which I think is the biggest mistake they ever made, because it just went downhill from there.
It did.
Because people realized that they could get away with anything, and the FCC wouldn't slap them on the hand.
I've got a dear friend that I did my internship with that got by with murder on the radio in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Won't mention his name, but his initials are Moby. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's what made him a very wealthy man today. Now, check this out. In a recent study by the American Society of Newspaper Editors we're talking about now, 80% of the American public says that they believe journalists change sensational stories to achieve newspaper sales, not because they feel that it's important news.
Mm-hmm.
Sensationalism sells.
It does.
Truth doesn't, apparently. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you personally, and you, saw some good news or happy news?
There's not that much.
No,
There is not that much.
It's far and few between. I mean,
And of course, I know right now things are a little difficult with the coronavirus and things like this. You can't really get out a lot if you're cameramen and reporters. And
Lord,
you
we're
know,
talking 1999.
I understand.
Where the huge bump in that change.
That's
came
true.
about. So, and that's scary. I mean, that's huge numbers. Huge numbers.
well, Pappy, we got a lot of comments from our viewers
We did,
based on this, so let's dive right in
All right, sir.
and see what
Lead
they
the
had
way.
to say. Jerry Williamson says, news coverage, I have to laugh. From what I see, every story is an op-ed, and they can't even cover a hurricane without blaming it on global warming. And, of course, they blame President Trump and the evil oil companies for global warming. OAN may be the only American company that just reports the news for world coverage of COVID-19. I've been watching Japanese and Israeli networks for unbiased coverage. Both of them are in English.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I was in New Zealand, I mean, the BBC over there in the European
Like they
countries,
say.
they have a different outlook on things than we do on the American version of BBC.
Yeah.
They actually tell the truth.
Oh, boy.
Al Perry out in New Mexico commented on Twitter that our news outlets have our population so confused on issues since they can't just report the facts without having to interject their leftist views.
Isn't that the truth?
I do agree with that.
I do too, Al. Hey, that's a really good point.
It is.
Crawford Young said it's become the National Enquirer news because it sells and the drama level is high. Also, it is much more profitable to sit around and spin doctor stuff than to chase the actual facts. Bad news will travel around the world before good news can tie its shoes. Also, everything is politicized because that stirs people's emotion. Yeah. He says this tells him the small moment of feeling victorious by spreading a lie against your political opponent is more important than the truth. In his opinion, this will lead us to a place in hell on earth.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're where we're at now. And this kind of relates back to some of the numbers that we were just talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Robert Simmons of Houston commented that today's news networks don't care about facts. They just want to sensationalize it to stir people up. No sense of responsibility. It's all about numbers. Viewers, dollars.
Mm-hmm. Ratings.
Ratings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Boy, we're both familiar with the ratings game.
Oh, yeah.
Angela Prentice commented on Twitter that she just doesn't listen to news anymore because they preach too much gloom and doom, and it brings her down. I can understand this.
Yeah.
I've heard this from a lot of people, though, Patty.
And you could ask Helen. I mean, mainstream media, when it pops up on our television, I'm usually out on the patio with a cup of coffee or a shot, playing on my phone. So, I mean, you don't know who to believe anymore.
That's true.
Jamie Ward of Hattiesburg, Mississippi said it is just dumb. Watch one station one day, then switch to the next, and then the third the next day. You'll be so confused by the information you hear. Her biggest issue is why you would talk to a local doctor or head to World Health or the director of some major hospital. They all have different versions. Good point, Jamie.
That is a good point.
Yeah, we
And if
appreciate
you stop
sending
and
that in.
think about it, she's absolutely right.
Yeah, I agree.
Janice Kiefer Moore of New York, hello, New York,
Hello, James.
said she only listens to Governor Andrew Cuomo. He lays out facts and figures every day in language anyone can understand, and she's very lucky to have him as her governor. Well, Janice, we appreciate you writing in from New York, and we hope you'll continue listening. Governor Cuomo does get to the point sometimes, but I think he overreacts a little bit. Just my opinion, of course.
Just as all.
But thank you for your opinion. We're going to voice it, good or bad, no matter what it is.
Good stuff. Thank you, Janice. Bobby Hearn says it sucks that they will only report half truths as always.
And Jerry Blum says the news media is a lot like one square of toilet paper. It doesn't cover the entire area.
Now, that I can understand.
Big Jerry.
How funny. Billy Bryan says the problem with mainstream media as he sees it, they're more interested in making the news for ratings' sake than just simply reporting the actual news. Says on a side note, he used to be a huge fan of Channel 8's Dale Hansen, but now he freaking hates him. He's just another blowhard out there self-promoting, and WFAA gives him the platform to do so.
Huh. Well, that's very interesting. You'll excuse me. I'm looking at my phone because we got some late comments in that I was going to try to put in here if I can find them.
Yeah.
But maybe you can. Tiffany Chestnut says she's personally sick of all the news.
Yeah. I am too. You'd come hang out on the patio with me, Tiff. We'll drink tequila and smoke cigarettes together.
Yeah.
Barry M. said on Twitter that all news outlets just simply suck at what they're doing. Says there's way too much sensationalism in the newscast for the American people to get the unfettered truth anymore. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Jimmy McLemore of Shreveport says the internet has ruined our society. There is too much false news being put out there and information that is far from the truth, and people believe all of it without checking the facts. No matter if it's politics, religion, or anything else out there, a person can't get factual information to assist them in forming an honest opinion.
That's true. The internet has a huge part in all this.
Stop and think about that.
Yeah.
That's true, Fabian. That's a good observation, Jimmy. Thank you very
good
much.
Stuff, Jimmy Mack. Yeah. Tim Sullivan summed it all up best when he said, "They all suck." That sounds like something I'd say. They all suck. I'm out of here.
I did finally find the one I was looking for.
Okay.
Mary Childers says, I refuse to watch the news except for Fox. Some of them are such liars and seem to really hate our America. I don't know why. They just don't haul their sorry asses out and just leave our beloved America.
That's right. Leave us alone.
Mary, just tell it like it
Tell
is.
nobody
Tell
else.
it like
No,
it
no
is.
other countries are listening to that crap, for one. Bob Baker says he thinks NBC News just made the point better than he could when it reported that President Trump would actually advocate
yeah.
injecting disinfectant to defeat coronavirus, which is an insult to our intelligence. However, the liberals are eating it up because they have been so poisoned by mainstream media that anything they say, he said. So,
Ain't it so? Ain't it so?
some great points of view, folks, and we love hearing from you. We appreciate y'all sending those along.
You know, now, Pappy and I have told you all along throughout the programs we've done so far that the views that are expressed here are his and mine.
Two old parts
Now,
opinions. Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, we both have been in the broadcast industry, and we've seen it change, Pappy, so much
Golly,
that it doesn't even,
crazy.
it really doesn't resemble the broadcast industry
It's a new world.
of the time that when we were in it and you were held responsible for what you did.
I mean, I had my job threatened so much just for even hinting that I was going to form an opinion about something, on the air.
I got a
Many
short story to tell you. Right when I first started in radio at KPLT in Paris, Texas. Hello, Paris. How are you?
Paris.
Anyway, we when I got there, I mean, our general manager was also the chief engineer, and this guy made sure we had top equipment on everything.
Yeah.
But make a long story short, we had the microphone that came out of the ceiling,
I hate those.
and you could adjust it and everything. So here I am reading the Saturday morning news from AP. Back when they
Right off the wire. I remember those
hot
little
off-
boxes. Right
off the
in
wire.
right in
Well,
the
I'm
PG's
sitting there. Of
office,
course,
yeah.
I'm a little nervous anyway because I had just started like 3 or 4 days before then, and I'd never done Saturday morning, so I was a little nervous. And I'm sitting here. I'll see if I can get this like it was. You know, when you're reading news and you're on the radio, you try to get a little bit ahead, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sitting here reading the news, and I'm watching this out of the corner of my eye, and I see the microphone go voop, start falling a little bit. And I kind of gave a look up, and tried to get a few lines ahead so I could do that. About the time I went to reach to grab it, it fell out of the ceiling. And it made all this noise and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I freaked out. I went, oh, shit.
Blew everybody off the road that was listening to
Well, I no sooner said that when the phone rang. It was a GM. He said, "Do you realize,
it. What did you just say?
young man, that there is a member of the FCC commission that lives here in Paris?" No, sir. No, sir, I didn't. He said, "Did you realize he's in Paris visiting his mother?" Oh, no, sir, I didn't.
Scare tactic.
It worked.
I remember.
It worked, but
And you knew where Kix was located.
oh yes, I did
Longview.
in Longview, Texas.
It was-
Yeah.
it was
Hello, Longview. How you doing?
Miss you guys, by the way. It was right across the street from a Raider funeral home. In fact, it used to be a funeral. It was a house. It was a funeral home.
I do remember that. Yes, I
Well,
do.
when we moved out on the loop into the new building, it was on a Sunday morning during my show, right at the tail end of the Positive Country show that I did every Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they had already changed the phones over. And somehow, I mean, we had like a 16-line phone. And I had a buddy called the Snowman who was a driver. And this guy I don't think he had ever heard a non-curse word in his life. I mean, he came from a whole string of truck drivers,
I can.
He called me up and I was talking to him, we was playing some music and I was talking to him and we were jibber-jabbering back and forth. But what I didn't realize is when we changed the signal over, I had like a 15-minute window to get over there, right? To do the Bob Kingsley show.
Right.
Excuse me.
American Country Countdown.
Well, everything that we were saying was bleeding through on the live signal in a new location.
Oh.
And I'm surprised I didn't lose my job that day because that was a gospel show I was doing.
Holy mackerel.
lot of potty mouth language going on.
I can imagine.
But
Yeah.
I can relate to what you're saying, though. You know, and I had the old swing arm over on the old location on Judson. It was just, I mean, it boom.
I went home.
So I had to do most of my show like this. You know?
I went home and told my wife at the time. I said, "Look, I really messed up today." She said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "I used the S word on the air." And she said, "You never use words like that." And I said, "I did this time because the mic fell out of the ceiling."
It's kind of like stumping your toe.
She said, "Well, was the mic on?" I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I may not have a job Monday." But I will say this about the GM. He called me into his office, and I thought, here it comes.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. Yeah. I just started now. I'm leaving.
Started looking around for an empty box. Huh?
But anyway, he was pretty cool. He said, "Look, I would have probably done the same thing if the mic fell out of the ceiling. I'll just make sure that doesn't happen again." And
We'll
sure enough, he
it.
took out the microphone that extended from the ceiling and got us a stationary mic that we could adjust and everything that wouldn't fall off.
Well, getting back to what we was talking about, we do appreciate your comments, your views, your suggestions, even your complaints. We like those.
Yeah, pros and cons.
Yeah, and send them in, grandpaandpappy@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. We love hearing from you.
You know, Pappy, if you sit here and you listen to some of these news networks, I don't know where they're coming up with a lot of this stuff. I really don't. I mean, how can you blame people for global warming when they had saw an interesting thing?
That damn Trump's what it is, by God.
Yeah, I saw an interesting thing on Facebook not long ago that said, "How can you blame a man for all of the government problems in America?"
For something that we ourselves as Americans created, you know, you can't.
When he's only been in office for 3.5 years, as opposed to these congressmen that's been in there for 60. Now, where does the fault lie?
And that's the thing about politics or being in the Oval Office. Whoever the predecessor is, you know, that's next in line to get into the Oval Office. Inherits all that crap from the previous office, and it usually takes them a full term to straighten it out. So,
that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Doing it on one foot and kicking it off with the other, so to speak.
Well, we want you to make sure to send us comments, pros and cons, like Pappy said just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, by all means.
Be sure to write down our email address, everybody.
That's grandpaandpappy@gmail.com.
Yeah, grandpa and pappy at gmail.com.
Yeah, on the podcast page, it's grandpaandpappy@gmail.com.
It is so important that you do this, folks, because this is what our shows are based on. What you are talking about. What concerns you.
Exactly.
We want to talk about
But not to mention that somebody somewhere out there, I mean, this is a worldwide broadcast. I mean, we go across the big pond. We go wall to wall, up, down, side to side.
You said we had some listeners in New Zealand and Japan.
Saudi, in Pakistan.
Thank you.
Over there. Thank you very much, Pakistan. Don't be shitting my bull. I know you're not listening to me. But yeah, I mean, and your voice might get heard by somebody that matters. You never can tell. That's how things change.
Well, you know, the thing that gets me sometimes, Pappy, is that the silent majority is called that for a reason. They never speak out.
Well, yeah, that.
This is your avenue to speak out.
That's right. That's a fact.
And if you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to make sure.
And that's one of a few reasons of inspiration, or what inspired us to create this show, you know, to make the silent majority heard. So blast it in. I don't care if it's about raising petunias or how much Trump sucks or vice versa on the other side. I don't care. If it's deemed worthy of discussion, shoot it to us. We'll find a way to talk about it. So.
The fact that Nancy Pelosi looks like Limu Emu, you know that.
Don't ever cut that poor little emu down like that again. Shame on you, man. Shame on you. And he's been sober 8 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord
But
have mercy.
anyway, it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, and we can't say that enough. And
Yeah.
gosh, it's so much fun for us to do our research on some of the things that you guys have suggested.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to be talking about pork barrel spending by the Congress. Now,
Yeah,
this
who-
is going to get interesting.
I didn't know what the hell pork barrel spending was until we did our political correctness show, I think. We announced something about it. Mm-hmm. Still not
And
sure
the
what it is.
statistics I've already come up with in researching just blew my mind. We kind of alluded to it sometime before when they passed the relief bill to help us Americans. But when you hear some of the statistics on Monday's show, you are going to be very surprised.
And that right there is what we're talking about. Let me phrase it this way. Every time pork barrel spending passes and gets signed off on, that is a direct result of the silent majority not speaking up.
That's exactly correct.
Because that's all researchable. Don't cost you a penny to find out what's going on in Congress, and all you got to do is look it up.
Some of these statistics, Pappy, are going to blow you away. In the meantime, if you have some comments that you want to make on pork barrel spending and the wasteful spending that Congress is doing, be sure to write us at grandpaandpappy@gmail.com. We want your input so that we can put it out on the show too.
Well, and there's space on our site that we've got up on the internet on our
Yeah, the web page.
webpage.
Yeah.
And that's www.grandpa letter N Pappy, Grandpa N Pappy at no, that's a .com.
.com.
Hell, I never can remember that.
Maybe it's the coffee.
I've got no. Don't talk about my coffee. That's good stuff. I just have a button I push. I don't know what the web address is. I have to ask Karen half of what I know.
Yeah,
about the
Special
show, so-
K does her magic over there, doesn't she?
Yeah.
My God Almighty. Let's get into some of the viewer comments that we've gotten on past shows. We didn't get a lot in this weekend, so I presume we did something
They
good.
were too busy bitching about the media.
Yeah, well, that's true
Rightfully
too.
so, too. So.
Why don't you kick us off here?
Okay, Mary M says she really enjoyed her show and what being American means. She says the discussion was honest and open, and it made her feel good inside, and we love that, making that feeling for you. Mm-hmm. And she also suggests that we obtain the ability to do phone calls because she would have called in, and funny you should bring that up. We've been talking about maybe doing some FaceTime calls. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to be heard and act foolish on the air, you're going to have to be like us. Your face will have to be seen. Or we can do it without.
Now, we're working on that technology, friends. We're operating on a minuscule budget.
Well,
so
Karen's
if any
working on it. Who you trying to
companies out there would like to sponsor us and let us update, we'd be sure happy to have you on board as a sponsor.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Mary, that's interesting. That's a good thing.
Very good stuff. Thanks for sending that in, by the way.
Max Snyder of Midland says he came across our program on law enforcement and said he then went to our webpage. There you go, Pappy.
Yeah.
And subscribed to YouTube,
Absolutely.
our YouTube channel.
We appreciate that, man.
Yeah, the webpage lets you do that very easy. Big red button. Subscribe to YouTube,
Right.
to that channel. Just push on that. It'll ask you to log in, give you a password. You're done. It's free.
That way you're stuck with us for life.
There you go.
Thanks to Sean Simmons for subscribing to our YouTube channel. He says that we're interesting. I don't know whether to take it as a compliment or
Sean,
an
you
insult.
haven't heard what he's been saying to me off camera, what he calls me. But that's okay. Sarah Patton, I beg your pardon, Sarah, forgive me. Sarah Patton says on YouTube that we need to quit cutting down Representative Ocasio-Cortez and start showing her some respect. She says it does no good to continually cut her down. Now, we tell you we want your comments, pro or con. We're going to read them. But we've said it many times, Pappy. we reserve the right to throw our opinion in too.
You have your opinion, we have ours. We will respect yours, and you should respect ours as well.
You know, I think Ocasio-Cortez is dumber than a run-over dog. You know, this lady has not showed me anything as far as being a responsible congresswoman when she's preaching non-American stuff and ways to bring down America.
A patriot she is not.
Two things that step out in my mind. She's cheering because the oil and gas industry is so low right now because nobody's traveling, okay? And then the other day she says that we shouldn't even go back to work. What?
Well, anybody that makes fun of anybody's misfortune is nothing
This
less
coming
than
from a
trashy,
bartender.
Nothing less than trashy to me. I mean, she applauded the fact that oilfield workers were unemployed, and screw you, Ocasio.
Yeah. You're talking about people's livelihoods
Somewhere else.
and, carbon emissions. I understand all of this, and the auto industry is doing everything they can to cut down on the auto emissions. So,
But Sarah, we're glad you like her. I mean, I'm sure she needs a friend. So. Anyway, thanks for your responses.
New York City.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate even your response and your opinion, Sarah. We appreciate it and we respect it, but we don't have to agree with it. Okay?
That's putting it like it is,
That's
Pappy.
right.
It's been fun today, everybody,
It's been an
talking about
interesting
the
show, yeah.
news media, and your input has certainly just made this show.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you so
We do.
much.
We
and
do.
we invite you to join us for our next program that'll be airing on Monday.
Pork barrel spending by Congress.
That's right.
I bet we hear from Sarah again on this one.
I bet we do too.
I hope we do. I hope we
Sarah, I mean, come on.
We love having something to talk
We
about.
surely do.
And if
Be
we can do
sure.
it in jest and put a smile to somebody's face, I mean, one frown out of a few thousand in a bad number,
Not a bad number. Yeah.
I'll take it.
It's been fun. We
has.
thank you very much for joining us, everybody.
Thanks so much for jumping on
Take
board.
care of yourselves out
that.
there,
Do
and slowly but surely we're going to get back to normal in this society. And thank God for all of His blessings. So,
And know that we love you, even the ones we don't like.
ain't it so?
We're here for you. We're listening. GrandpaandPappy@gmail.com. Let us hear from you.
That's right. Until next time, we want to say thank you, bless you, keep safe, and we love you.
Later.
Bye.